Okay, joining me this week is a returning guest, Dr. Sundar Jagadeesan, and he was on episode 460, owner of Dentiq. Sundar, how's it going?
Hi, Michael. Thank you so much for having me back. I'm really good. Happy New Year to you and all the listeners.
Thank you so much.
It's been a real interesting couple of years it's been since we met. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. But before
Yeah.
we jump in, how's your week been? What's been taking up most of your mental space lately?
For this last week, it has been planning for 2026. We've just come off a big 18 months of transition in the practice. Associates moving countries, moving different practices, and teams restructuring and all those things. So Dentiq has gone through a fairly interesting 18 months where we have changed a few things and upgraded a few things.
And
And
is that more like clinical stuff, team stuff, owner stuff, or?
team stuff, owner stuff, and clinical stuff. Procedure wise, we haven't changed much. We're still doing the same restorative dentistry, but systems in place and changing things, staff training, team personnel as well, new people coming in.
Interesting. So for
Yeah.
anyone who's brand new and hasn't listened to the episode, by the way, you're on episode 460. So if a listener is listening right now and they're like, I want to go listen to that episode, they can go
Yeah.
listen to it. But now we're fast forwarding it. And so for anyone who's brand new, give us the snapshot. What kind of practice are you running today?
So ours is a general dental practice focused on advanced restorative dentistry. And we have been in Napier, New Zealand. It's on the east coast of New Zealand for 7 years coming up now. We started the practice early 2019. It was a green start, like a fresh new practice. We started after my time at the Koi Center in Seattle. I came back and we said, okay, if we're going to implement all I learned at the Koi Center, so we're going to set it up in such a way that the workflow, everything is conducive to practice that kind of dentistry. And then that's when we set this practice up. And we've been in Napier quite happy. Kids settled into schools here, family settled in. My parents live here. They don't live too far away. They live 20 kilometers away from us. And my sister has since moved to Hawke's Bay as well from Auckland, which is 7 hours north of us, drive time. They've moved with us. And so my side of the family is all here in Hawke's Bay. And we just have one, my sister-in-law, my wife's sister. She lives in Liverpool, England. And that's about the family part. And I'm your regular Joe Blow doing your regular dentistry with an interest in restorative dentistry.
Okay, so an interest in restorative dentistry. So that's what makes it different in how it operates or serves
Yeah.
patients? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So then
Yeah.
when you think about ownership today, Sundar, what feels fundamentally different compared to earlier seasons or when we earlier spoke?
The biggest difference in the ownership side is the cost of supplies. In New Zealand, especially post-COVID, between 2022 to now, there's been a massive increase in the cost of dental supplies, which has pushed our overheads past the 65% mark quite a lot. And also, cost of living has increased a lot in this country. So that has a direct translation into team compensation and things like that. Expectations from people coming into the practice as well has
Okay.
changed.
What have you done to kind of like combat that, especially the cost of supplies, but then at the same time, cost of living? I'm assuming like your team eventually was like, Sundar, I need a raise or I need more money. How
Yeah.
did you go along with that?
The first thing what I did was go ahead and hire a really good accountant. I've been working with Jessie for the last 8 months during the transition. She helped me a lot with the whole thing. So the CA to help me was Jessie regarding the money part of things too. And the other important thing I took up on myself was supplies ordering. I took it on myself to control what materials I'm looking at alternatives at the same quality level. That has been a big change for us in the last 12 months. Since early 2025, I've started operating the ordering part myself. It was a big take. It has added a lot into my plate. And also, we've just finally added a couple of associates into the practice now. But I waited my time to get a person who will buy into the philosophy of comprehensive restorative dentistry. I didn't want to rush into getting an associate who was not in the same page as the practice philosophy. The same thing with the team members as well. So what I felt was what worked for us is having a good quality human being in the team mattered most. And we don't mind paying them a bit more. I'm not saying we're paying them the maximum what we would love to pay them, but we're trying. We're still in transition. I think our transition will extend another 6 months, but I'm fairly confident at the end of 6 months, we'd be in a lot better administrative position to give the pay rises that the team wants, to organize overhead management a bit more better as well.
Gotcha. Why?
Yeah.
Why would you be in a better position 6 months? Like, what specifically are you doing right now that will guide you there?
Systems, going back to systems, going back to team training, taking a bit more proactive steps to reorganize the administrative side, the reception side, where the incoming calls, patient inquiries, looking at more conversion to patient appointments, new patient appointments. So a new patient onboarding process has been focused on, which will translate into more comprehensive diagnosis and comprehensive treatment plan presentation, just looking at the basics and utilizing technology to facilitate this. I think the biggest thing for me on that front, since we met last time, was the AI usage. Still HIPAA compliant, privacy law compliant in New Zealand. Oryx has upgraded. They've given us a couple of more tiers of automating workflows. All your mundane admin stuff can be automated now. And the software listens to your conversation from what we are having with patients, and that translates into progress notes straight away. What this does is it takes things off my plate, gives me my time back, and then that time I can utilize to concentrate on staff training, systems training, and looking at reviewing systems and things like that. So just going back to the basics of running a practice itself has made a huge difference, because we get too busy, right? Like we get busy in the running of the practice. We just going faster dentistry, faster number of turnover of patients. And at some point, you tend to, in the busyness, you lose the bigger picture of slowing down and looking at the full mouth, looking at the comprehensive health part of the patient and all those things. So that's been a big shift for us, for me personally as well, going back to the basics.
Going back to the basics, slowing down right now. So then with slowing down, where do you make decisions faster with less emotional weight than before?
The decision making has become more intentional, right? Like when you slow down, you think better. When you think better, you're logically thinking in a sequence. And that has made a difference. And one of my biggest learnings in the last 3 years, which I would like to share, is the concept of diagnostic safety netting. I learned it from another senior practitioner here who's just retired, but that's been phenomenal in my thinking when I go meet a new patient now. Diagnostic safety netting, in a very precise one-liner, what it is you just basically slow down, not doing 15, 20-minute consults and treatment plan on the fly. Rather, go think about it, get your data, think about it, and just taking that extra 5, 10 minutes more has made all the difference in looking at the whole picture, like looking at the medical context of people and things like that. So my decision making by slowing down has become more intentional. When you are intentional about what you're trying to achieve for the patient, I feel that has increased my case acceptance. So I think that's how the slowingness has helped me in the practice side.
Okay. You said you take like 5 to 10 minutes in the slowing down process and you look at all the data. So what specifically, if you can break down for us, like, hey, if your new patient consult right now, Michael, is 30 minutes. I'm trying to do as many as I can, 30 minutes. And you're telling me, hey, maybe take 40 minutes and look at this data. Can you guide me or like coach me step by step? What do I need to do in those 10 minutes specifically besides just slow down?
So basically, what I actually did was, you're right, my half an hour initial consultations, I literally made it into a 40-minute appointment. Once the dental assistant has done all my pre-interview review of the medical history and all those things, I go in, he hands over the patient to me. And then once that part is done, then I take 2-3 minutes before I even speak to the patient. I'm actually looking at the x-rays, looking at the medical history, checking the whole thing, getting an understanding of what I'm walking into, having a more clearer picture. That 2-3 minutes slowing down has helped me there. And then I go into meet the patient, greet the patient, do all your small talk, the rapport building. And then we speak about what I see on the x-rays and the data collected. And then we translate into a questioning model where we ask the patient what exactly they're in for and what exactly they are wanting to achieve with their problem, so to speak. So the questioning model has allowed me to understand the patient's needs better and then correlate that clinically and then come to a decision where I'm presenting a solution to the problem. In the past, from the moment I walk into the room, greeting, you're straight away going into receiving the problem and then you're giving them a solution. I'm not slowing down to look at the clinical picture, then go through their needs assessment, and then go through the solution part and give them time to think about it. I also read the other day, which kind of struck on my mind quite a lot, is we don't have to close every patient. Dr. Michael Cohen, the founder of Seattle Study Club, he says, if you do things right by the people, everything else will fall in place. So that's what I'm focusing on. Understanding, slowing down, understand the needs of the human being in front of me before I even present a solution to suit their needs and context. And then also take another 3 to 5 minutes in the time to debrief myself about going through the clinical data with the x-rays or whatever subject they've brought in, and then start to plan or think through the whole process, what has happened in that appointment, before you actually confirm it to summarize it to the patient. This is possible for two reasons. One is the extra 10 minutes in the appointment, and also the AI part. The computer is listening to all this conversation. I'm getting all those information in there, in the software itself. I'm not rushing through a consult, and then my focus is all on typing the notes and getting all the compliance part done before I jump to the next patient. Now, technology gives you that space to actually be present and listen to the patient. And that's what's helped me with that 40 minutes.
So you're thinking out loud, in the software is listening to you, and then it compiles like, hey, this is my synopsis, or this is like what I think. How does that look?
The software doesn't suggest treatments. So the software is actually only recording what is happening and converting them into a official template. So it automatically converts that into that progress note. But in the past, like my last 5-10 minutes has been spent typing up that notes or writing that notes in my chart. So that thinking process is taken away. That typing time is taken away. And that translates into more face-to-face interaction time.
So it sounds like ownership doesn't always get easier, but it gets clearer as you want more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. One take home for me personally in the last 18 months is you slow down to go faster. That's been the biggest thing for me. You know, the old story about the bamboo trees taking so much time to germinate and then suddenly they shoot up. It doesn't sound very kind of money savvy, I suppose, or in the vast corporate world of dentistry where we are heading into. But I think patients as such will appreciate single dental practices like your small practices even more in the years to come. Because in all reality in life, we start losing the human touch. Appointments are booked online. Patients see you online reviews and whatnot. The word of mouth referrals are getting less, whereas the online ratings gives you more patients than word of mouth. So things like that, right? It's changing. And I think the human interaction part will triumph eventually and will always be there to stay, I believe. And this gives me in that 40 minutes.
That human touch point.
Yeah, human touch point. And then you interact with the patient more. And that's given me more clarity about the patient I'm dealing with, the person I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
And it gives them more clarity about the dentist they're dealing with, that this guy is not for a quick buck here. He actually means what he says. He takes care of me. And he wants more long-term benefit of the dentistry, whatever the long-term health goals is achieved, I suppose. Yeah.
And I guess that's like the good and bad thing about like where we're at with humanity a little bit and technology is because, man, extra 10 minutes, those last 10 minutes can make the 40 minutes like, man, he really cares. Like, I feel a connection here. This is incredible. As opposed to in the past where it's like, man, I'm going to have to see you a couple times and then we'll kind of look into it. So you can make that connection, I guess, a lot faster, but you got to make the connection. You got to be like, hey, let me slow down. And when you tell us to slow down, Sundar, what are some things that we're going to have to sacrifice and be okay with?
Maybe you're seeing one patient in 40 minutes instead of two, the way you were doing. But I rather have one patient done well and get the treatment they need than meet two people and go into a hit and miss situation. So you might compromise on the numbers, actually, but I feel I get more healthy mouths out of the 40 minutes as a compromise, which I think is a good compromise to have than the numbers game. So the numbers game does get a hit. Maybe you charge more for your consults. Maybe you charge more for your procedure and then give the patient what they deserve.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So today in a crowded market where you're located, what's the move that helped you stand out when everyone else was offering general dentistry too?
What helps us stand out is not dealing with a single tooth problem. So if a new patient always comes into the practice either for a toothache or a broken tooth, broken filling, or a singular problem, the patient's never going to walk into your practice and say, I want a full mouth rehab. They're not going to tell that. By full mouth rehab, I don't mean doing 28 crowns. That's not what I mean. Full mouth comprehensive dentistry, looking at the person as a whole. Like what Dr. Pankey said, like I've never seen a tooth walk into my practice. It's always a human behind that tooth. So I think the uniqueness of what I've learned at the Koi Center and my ongoing learning with Seattle Study Club, or when I interact with the podcast group and all those things, what I have learned a lot in this space is taking time to see the patient as a human being and looking at their overall health. And that's the unique part in the whole thing. It goes back to the relationship-driven practice rather than procedure-driven practice. I might not do 200 crowns a month, but I might do 150 mouths a month, so to speak. Do you know what I mean? So it's not about doing how many counts of crowns or how many crowns of implants we're doing, but how many full mouths we have created. Patient comes in, for example, with a upper right bicuspid pain. You deal with it, cracked tooth, whatever. You're spending all your mental faculties, cognitive strength on getting the best for that tooth. And you totally miss the point that all the left side teeth is missing. And whatever dentistry you do on that upper bicuspid is going to fail because he's going to be lopsided in his occlusion all the time. And for us, I think the extra 10 minutes is giving me the slowing down and looking at the whole mouth and taking the patient from point A to point C, where there's more health, rather than taking a bicuspid from point A to point B. I think slowing down itself, this comprehensive thinking is the unique point Dentiq has to offer, or Sundar has to offer, so to speak. Okay. And that's another reason I took my time to get an associate as well. We have two really lovely doctors working with us now. I've known them for a while now, and I've spoken to them about my philosophy. One person, in fact, is part of my study club, so he understands my intentions with what I'm trying to achieve with the practice and says, yes, I like your philosophy. I'll come into your practice and I'll work with you. So taking the whole relationship driven into your team dynamics as well.
With that, how do you translate that to the general audience? Meaning like, hey guys, we're just slower, or how do you translate that so then they can be like, Dentiq is different, but I'm not a patient yet, but I want to go to them.
To the general public, you mean?
Uh-huh.
We are quite vocal about the comprehensive slowing down process to treating them as a complete human being in our marketing material itself. So we take time to set up a online presence in that angle. And then the first phone call itself, my front desk explains to them, okay, you come into Dentiq, he's not going to just look into that quick fix you're looking for a one tooth. If you're in pain, obviously, yes, we'll get you out of pain, but we will start speaking about your whole health with smoking, diet considerations, diabetes, cardiac issues, and all those things, periodontal health. And he's going to start speaking. So the expectation is set in the first phone call itself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that has given us an expectation, and the public in Hawke's Bay, the local patients, they've come to a stage where when they come into Dentiq, they're expecting us to do things a bit differently now after 6-7 years of being in this town. The reputation we have created, because that's what they read in the Google reviews for the practice.
Mm-hmm.
So they come in and these guys take time to listen to you. These guys take time to explain all the options to you. They come up with payment options. And in all reality, no one's having a wad of cash in their back pocket to throw at dentistry, right? Life takes over: school, college fees, kids, dance lessons, for that matter. So everything costs money. And it's facilitating the care they need. And that kind of reflects in our Google review, on our marketing, on our interactions with the patients before they even see me. So priming the front office people to deliver that message on that first interaction and set up the expectation and it's an expectation from my side as well towards the patient, and then from their side as well coming into. So that has helped us to interact with the general public
when they're calling and things like that. Now, that takes a lot more time for the front office, right?
It does, yeah. That's the same thing with my consult as well. The whole sequence, if you see, the slowing down starts there itself on the phone call. It's not a rushed 2-minute phone call where the objective is to book the client in. Yes, you want to book the new patient in, not lose them. But at the same time, you understand what they're calling, understand the needs better, and then book them in for the right procedure, the right kind of appointment.
So it sounds like differentiation is usually uncomfortable before it's effective, right?
Exactly.
So let's go tactical for a second. Early on, you tried newspaper, EDDM, I think you mentioned radio and all that. What did you learn from that phase? What worked a little and what turned out to be just a lot of noise?
Radio, actually, we're just coming off a 6 months radio campaign. So the biggest thing is, like, you know how in the dental marketing space or any marketing space, they differentiate between advertising and marketing. So I think that's been the biggest learning curve for me as a person who doesn't understand that space, because I had the impression in the past that, okay, I put myself out in the radio, people are going to find me and come. But radio doesn't actually bring people in, for me at least. It actually throws the brand, settles the thought into people. And what I've seen in the last 24 months is actually Google reviews and the search engine optimization, and those things have brought me more patients in. I think 80% of our clientele who are coming in out of online reviews. So just concentrating on getting more reviews in the page on your Google listing or Yelp listing, or Yelp is not big in New Zealand. Things like that made a difference. But the advertising part, I don't know, Michael. To be honest, I'm still figuring it out, whether the radio part I'm spending is working. Newspapers have actually become, I wouldn't say ineffective, but I'm not reaching the 25 to 55 years of age bracket anymore with the newspaper. I don't see newspapers being read that much as against online reviews or online presence. Even online newspapers have more traction. The other thing is the digital impressions online marketing. I don't think that has worked for us as well. So we've tried all that, and we're just finishing a 6 months radio campaign end of January. Are we still deciding whether we're going to renew that contract or not for another 6 months? But we're still thinking about it. How much direct conversion has happened is basically because of search engine optimization and online reviews. That's what has worked for us. Yeah.
So SEO and then online reviews. Google reviews is mainly what's happening. So
yeah.
If a startup owner is listening right now, what's the version of that move they can copy without wasting money? What would you recommend?
To be honest, like for me, when I started this clinic, for the first year, I tried doing this online SEO myself, but I didn't feel it was good use of my time. And that's when I ended up with Equa Marketing based out of Canada. So we went to them and we said, okay, this is a practice. They knew the dental space really well. And they were already doing, I think at that stage, close to 400 practices in the US or something, probably more now. And we've been with them for 4 or 5 years. And these guys are quite interactive with you. They touch base, touch points are really good through the month. They've taken care of that part and keeping the website dynamic and all those things. I think this part for a new startup dentist, I understand the financial pressure someone would be in that position. Or should I spend on these things? And to start out, you can cut out all the marketing and concentrate on just signing up with someone like Equa, and they take care of your online presence. And then you concentrate on networking in your local community with face-to-face networking groups. Weekends, go to your local men's club, dad's mom's club, interact with the kindergarten teachers in your kids' schooling. Wherever your normal social life takes you, make it a point to showcase you and your practice at that point. Because these regular people are going to be your patients. And that community interaction, face-to-face interaction is what you can concentrate as a new startup dentist. And that doesn't have to cost you that much. You know what I mean? Like your sports practice on a Saturday morning might bring you 4 more patients than breaking all your head on a radio ad.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Doing a lot more ground marketing. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So then right now, if you can, take us back to a season, Sundar, where ownership felt heavier than it should have. How did that weight show up day to day? What was technically working but still felt fragile underneath?
The biggest point of fragility was when my associates moved on. And suddenly we were a big team of 16, 17 people. Again, in New Zealand terms, it's a big team. And then all of a sudden, within a span of 6 months, losing the 2 doctors for various reasons, I had to downsize my team to keep my payroll burden down. And some of them moved on to different positions, left dentistry. They were going through changes in their own personal life as well. And a couple of them moved overseas. One left to Australia, one left to study hygiene school as well. So things like that worked out for them. But at that point, you come to a stage where as a new startup practice, 5 years into the practice, you're suddenly feeling like you're back at square one. That was real scary. And I was speaking to a friend of mine. I said, this is 2019 all over again. And I feel really scared. And he said, no, it's not the same. There is a big difference. You have 6,000 patients in your book. In 2019, you had none. So go back and concentrate on taking care of these 6,000 people, and then the rest will fall in place. And that conversation just helped me to kind of refocus and settle down. And to be very honest, I should give credit to my wife through that period because she understood what I was going through in the practice. She's not a dentist. She's a stay-at-home mom, but she understood the pressures of ownership and running the practice. And it's almost like kind of going back to that phoenix stage, like you rise out of the ashes kind of feeling. And she helped me. She supported me massively through that phase. And giving you that time you're not always available in the evenings for your family, for your kids, doing homework with your kids or taking them to dance lessons or gymnastics. That might not happen during that phase, but a spouse who understands that and gives you that space. Okay, I understand you're going through a transition. You're going through a lot of pressure. We'll give you your time and space. Go figure it out, settle it in. Even if they can't physically help you in the practice or financially help you in the practice, they can give you the space and time to process and mentally clarify things for yourself to do what's next. Because it's like riding a tiger, right? You can't get off it. You just have to continue riding it and you just plug through the whole thing. That 6 months was really tough. My faith, family, and friends helped me in ways they didn't even realize, probably.
I like that a lot. In that moment, 6 months, where did you feel like you were compensating instead of leading?
Compensating, basically, I think it's family time. Family time, your personal stuff takes a backseat because you have to set up your livelihood clearly. When you hit rock bottom, there's no other way to go, right? Like the only way to go is upwards. It gives you the time to slow down and rethink your systems. I think going forward, I would rather keep thinking and creating that mental space as a business owner to constantly reevaluate what I am doing with my practice, what I am doing with my systems. So you don't end up in that position. So it kind of get into contingency planning. I think that's the biggest learning. But the compensation part, coming back to your question, is the family time, which got a hit. But that gave me the time to focus on the practice.
Yeah, to focus on the practice. Okay, good. Yeah, I like it a lot. Now, rewind a little bit back to where you're utilizing SEO and then you're also utilizing reviews and digital presence, right? Like, let's make this a little bit more real. Where are your new patients coming from? You mentioned it was just SEO and reviews, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And how are you tracking that?
We are actually asking the patient how they chose to come to us. So we religiously, in the first phone call itself, we are asking them. When they fill the forms out in Oryx, one of the questions is tracking the referral sources. So they could search engine, Google review, search engine, Google review. At the end of the month, when we look at the reports for the month, actively seeking a report like, okay, what is my referral source? Where did these patients come from? And that's how we are tracking.
Gotcha. Physically asking the patient.
Yeah.
Then they fill it out in the documents that you said through Oryx and then the reports. Does Oryx provide those reports too? Like you get from them?
They do.
Okay. If you don't mind me asking, Sundar, where is Oryx shine the brightest in your practice?
At the moment, the biggest hit out of the park is the AI notes. Has made a huge difference. Even say, for example, it cuts out all the small talk and gets only clinically relevant things into the progress note. I thought that was brilliant technology, right? Like, so AI note taking has made a big difference at the moment. And also in the last 2 to 3 years, I see Oryx has improved, or they've just exponentially grown their administrative side of the software, where you can print reports out, whatever reports, however you want it to be, what numbers for practice management and growth planning. That part has changed a lot because in the past, I have seen where people have been, oh, okay, Oryx is clinically really, really good, but the admin part, I don't get the same reports I get from other softwares. So I think they have really listened to that and they have worked on that part of the software quite a lot. So getting financial reports, patient procedure reports, like patient management reports, has been worked on and has kind of improved quite a lot in the last couple of years with Oryx.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, can you give me, besides the AI notes, like 2 to 3 things your team loves because it reduces friction?
That is the appointment reminder system in Oryx. That's really cool. Automatic emails and texting. The morning huddle module in Oryx, that's a big hit with the team. You can print a route slip straight away when the patient walks in, and that helps the whole appointment really well. That's been a big hit for this team. They've also improved the billing systems quite a lot. If you're having a membership plan, you can incorporate that into your patient management software itself. You don't need a separate third-party membership management program. That's been a godsend, actually. That's been a big point of difference. And we haven't yet started using that feature, but we are reviewing that with my senior DA. The lab tracking part of the software, I think that is going to make a big difference in the life of dental assistants as well, because once you feed the data correctly at the crown prep time, it automatically tracks when the patient's due, when the lab work has to come in from the lab and all those things. The lab tracking, we haven't done it yet, but in the next 2 weeks, we are going to implement that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So then for an owner debating switching practice management softwares and they're thinking like, is it worth the headache? Where does Oryx actually pay for itself?
It's the time you save as a clinician is massive. It pays for it. These are, I feel, the tacit areas where you can't convert dollar to dollar, but the time savings is massive. It pays for itself. The other feature which I like, which I think will save the clinician quite a lot, is the AI incorporation into your X-rays, Pearl and Overjet. That has made a difference in presenting the problem to the patient, where they can suddenly see an X-ray light up with colors. That's made a difference. I don't know what the science behind color perception or the psychology behind it is, but patients suddenly see the periapical lesion on an X-ray. They suddenly see the size of the cavity on an X-ray and they say, oh, that's too red. I'm happy to get that done. I understand that that has to be done. Oh, I don't like that blue lesion on the end of the roots of that tooth. Book me in for that root canal. And that part has paid for itself.
That can be very
powerful.
It'd be interesting to look into the human psychology behind that, right? So then owner to owner advice, if you can give this to our listeners, if an owner listening is one step behind where you were, what's the one move they should make this week?
If they are at the same point where I was like 18 months ago, I would say probably take 2 or 3 days off, calm yourself down and settle down, and then look at options where you could delegate and outsource your marketing, speak to someone like you, and your practice management software. These things has helped us quite a lot. And look at options where within your team, what can be delegated to whom, kind of review the strengths of each person in your team, and then go back to them and have a honest team meeting, like a team clarity retreat, and then slow down and think about, take stock, and then plan things from there. Take those 2 or 3 days off your clinic, take the team away, settle down, sit down, have a chat, be real to the team, tell them the real life problems of being an owner. They're human beings too. They will understand, and then they will go from there. And that gives us more buy-in from the team as well to implement whatever remedial actions or whatever actions you're going to bring into the spot. You have more buy-in from the team to implement it every day. Mm-hmm. So once they understand the thing, go back to the human touch, concentrate on the relationship with your patients, and genuinely take an interest in taking care of the patient. Don't worry about the money part, which will follow by itself. And review your fee structure, I would say. If you haven't reviewed your fee structure since COVID, probably because people are scared to put their fees up or review it. That's the reality of it. Cost of living has increased. Cost of running the practice has increased too. But we are still stuck in the 2020 fee structure. That's not going to make the difference for us. So unfortunately, we'll have to pass on that increase to the clients.
Yeah.
So looking at the business as a detached entity from yourself and look at, okay, this practice is under my care. What is the best I can do to make it work and make it better? Take the emotional side, emotional link to that out of the picture. Think of yourself as an outside business consultant coming in. There's no emotions for them. And that's why outside business consultation works. They come in and see objectively and make a decision objectively. They don't make a decision emotionally. And if some team member is not working, maybe it's time to ask them to move on It might be a very tough conversation to have. It is for me, but maybe that's what the practice needs. That's what the business needs. Because at the end of the day, all of us come together to make a difference for that particular patient who's sitting in that chair at that moment. If we
Yeah.
can't deliver that, whatever's in its way, you got to take it out.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
the main thing, if they're like a step behind and they want to be where you're at, is hey, take a couple days, gain some clarity, write things down, and then get back with your team. What do you think usually stops owners from doing that? From like they're feeling the chaos, but they're like, hey, I can't take 2 days off, 3 days off. Like what, in your opinion?
It's the lost income, right? That's what I feel. It's the lost income. Okay, what happens if 3 days I don't work? I don't generate that money to pay the team. I'm already having bills piling up. I have to pay. But you need to slow down to figure that out. If you still keep running into that hamster wheel, you have to get off the wheel to understand the wheel, right? So I think the lost income is the biggest pressure point for owners. It doesn't give them the confidence to take that time off to think and plan. And external business consultation also costs money. So to make money, you got to spend more money. And where do I find that money to spend that money? So that's a real life problem, right? Like it's easy for me to sit and say, okay, hire a consultant, do this, do that. But you got to pay for all that. And that's the reality as well. So I think before we come to that point to hiring external help, we have to settle down in our mind first, because that's the other thing is hiring external help in a chaotic situation might not fix the problem for you, might just add more bills to the problem, which is going to complicate things more, even if it is a day, even if it is going to be a weekend, a non-production day. Go ahead, speak to the team and say, okay, team, I need this. I might not be able to pay this for you, pay for this day, but you know what? We'll go to this place and we'll have a decent dinner out of it. We'll have a teams to help each other. And that's what I did.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, interesting. I like
Yeah.
it. So, Sundar, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being on this. We'll drop your links in the show notes below. But one of the final questions we wanted to ask you, our last guest left a question for you. And this is Dr. Andy Brito from Brito Family Dental. And he said, if you wanted to 10x your practice or 2x your practice even, what steps would you take to do that?
That's interesting. Practice growth has to be central to your mindset. 2x my practice, what I would do, I would invest in the people, my team, and leverage technology to do that.
Okay.
Smart use of technology and time and effort and money into my team.
What first step would you do when you're looking at your team? Like, I'm going to invest this for you guys.
Conversion at getting new patients in is going to be your lifeline. So first would be my training on phone systems, how they answer the phone, review the phone calls, training them on that. Because once the patient's in, it's on you. But if they're not even inside your practice, we're not going to have that impact. So getting that front office organized would be my first step.
Did you utilize a specific company for that?
For phone call, I used a local company here, a one-man show, ex-businessman who's retired, and he does these phone trainings. So we took them in towards the middle of last year. And then now we are going into more structured phone call coaching for the front office team through Equa itself.
Gotcha.
Because I went back to them and said, you guys are helping us to bring these new patients, but we are not converting all that new patient inquiries into new patient appointments. You need to help us here. And then they said, okay, we'll put together, and took them, I think 6-8 months. They've come back and they said, yes, we're doing. And we are one of the first overseas clients for them to go into that program.
Okay, awesome. So before we wrap up, what's one question you would like to ask for the next guest to answer?
What do they do to keep their overheads under the magical 60%?
Gotcha. What do they do to keep their overhead under the magical 60%?
Yeah.
Gotcha. All righty, Sundar. Thank you so much. Again, we appreciate you. And for anyone listening, we're going to drop the links in the show notes below. But if they want to reach out to you directly, where can they find you?
My mobile is on my website, so anyone can text me. I'm happy for you to put it on the show notes as well. Texting probably is the easiest way to get me. Email or text is easy. And I'm happy to interact with anyone, especially people who are starting up a practice, planning to start a practice in 2026. I'm happy to speak to and interact.
Nice. Okay, so
It'd
that's
be
going to be
my
in the show
pleasure.
notes below too as well. And
Yeah.
Sundar, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being with us. It's been a pleasure, and we'll hear from you soon.
Thank you so much, Michael. It's always a pleasure to meet you. And it's always a pleasure to see the impact you're having in the industry as well. Thank you so much for what
Thank
you
you.
are doing.